Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable Podcast. We are here recording episode 159, and today we will be discussing the most respectable and the most honored positions or professions around the world. So if you're curious, will my job as a plumber be more respected in a different country? Will my job as a teacher be more respected if I move somewhere else? If I'm a doctor, will I be respected everywhere around the world? Today, you will find out by tuning into our episode about the most respectable position. I can't talk today. The most respectable professions around the world. I'm curious to see what kind of research and factoids Jared has dug up from the deep interwebs today. So without further ado, my good buddy Jared, what's going on, Jared?
Turns out podcasting is not on the list of one of the most respectable professions. So
Not yet.
dude, I like the way you think. I was just about to play a negative wah related drop, but you changed my mind, you know? Oh, see, listen, I'm so unprepared. We're all unprepared here. I just want... Anyway, please, everyone, follow us. Untranslatable Podcast is the place to follow us. You can also follow us on, that's our Instagram, excuse me. You can also follow us on Twitter, untranslatable1, the number 1. You can email us, untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. And then, of course, 5-star reviews. That's where it really counts, you know? That's where we really, that's how this week really start getting that respect we're looking for.
That's right.
Turns out it's a lot harder than we thought, but it starts with 5-star reviews. Chad, do you feel like you command respect in your profession? Like, do you feel like you get the respect you deserve? And maybe not even in China, like obviously in China, but just in general.
Maybe, kind of. I'm not sure. I'm not one of, I think, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like the teachers who are much more, what's the right term here? More strict and more like that. I think they command and demand a lot more respect. I'm a bit more laissez-faire in the classroom where, I don't know, like occasionally I'll have students on their phones in class and they're not doing things on task. And I'll look at them and I'll tell them something, but I think other teachers would maybe like take their phones away or something like that.
Throw it against a wall.
That's right, exactly. You know, take a selfie with their phone or something. You know, making a very disapproving facial expression or something.
Yeah, see, this is why you're the laissez-faire, because that's what comes to your mind. Oh, I'll show them.
Right.
I'm going to put this on their stories,
selfie
on their WeChat stories, or on their WeChat moments.
That's right. But I don't know. I think the way that I gain respect from students is by respecting them and building a good rapport with them, which is, I think, a different type of respect than if your students are scared and intimidated by you and therefore they respect you.
Yeah, but I feel like people, at least in the culture I'm used to, I don't know, here in the U.S., respect that sort of intimidating, deserved respect a little bit too much, you know? Maybe I'm wrong.
I agree.
I don't know. But I feel like that sort of like stern, indecisive boss is like it's like sometimes looked at on as a good quality.
I think you mean stern and decisive boss.
What did I say?
Stern and indecisive? At least that's what I heard. I could be wrong.
I don't know. Either way, I meant decisive.
You're right. Yeah. I figured you did, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it also helps too, I guess, or helps or doesn't help, I don't know, that you do have this conversation corner. So you do have this outlet, unlike all these other teachers, where you can get even more comfortable than you would in your class, where your teaching style might already be looked at as a rather comfortable teaching style, you know?
Right. True. And I think also with language teaching, you want to foster an environment in the classroom where the students feel comfortable. And I think if you're very intimidating and stern, your students will not feel comfortable. At least that's how I am as a person. Maybe you're different, Jared. Maybe Jared
I never
can
feel
handle a bit more. Well, there we go. But speaking of English Corner, Jared, I did have my last English Corner for the semester yesterday. I cried one tear as we were ending English corner, just one rolled down my cheek.
We call that a thug tear.
That's right. That's right. And but it was great. Guess what we did?
I have no idea. Played. Let me guess. Played musical chairs.
Sadly, with 60 students there, that would be fairly difficult.
The
That'd
most
be fun.
That would be like a Guinness Book of World Records game.
Right.
Of
Yeah, I wonder what the biggest game of musical chairs is.
It's more
we
than
could
that.
definitely win any. I think anything numbers based in here in China, I'm pretty sure it would be very easy.
That's true.
To set those
That's the
Book
place
of
to do
World
it.
Records. That is true. So our topic was movies. So we talked a little bit about movies, different genres of movies that people like and don't like, famous movies, things like this. And I figured since Christmas is, well, after this episode airs, Christmas is sadly over, but Christmas is around the corner. And so I found on a website called Bilibili, which is one of my favorite websites here in China because you can access a lot of things that you can find on YouTube here in China. So it's not blocked. The internet speed is fast, so you don't have to worry about like long buffering times, things like this. So it's really great. So the original 1966 animated version of The Grinch is on Bilibili with Chinese and English subtitles. And it's only about 25 minutes long. So it's perfect.
Wait, it's 25 minutes long, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, this might sound like a stupid question, but does your average Chinese college student even know what The Grinch is?
Nope.
Okay. I didn't think so.
That wasn't a stupid question at all.
Okay.
And they really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. We watched it. I had to explain to them, though, because it was written by Dr. Seuss, there's lots of made-up words. Like,
and it's written in like riddles. Not riddles, but
rhyme.
Like rhyme. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are words like palunka and pamunka, and I knew immediately, like, when they saw that, I was like, oh, no. They're probably going to
but
really
you can't
wonder
explain
what
that
these
because,
English
I mean, the explanation is that's not a word, but it was used to complete
the rhyme.
This rhyme,
That's how I
yeah.
explained it. That's exactly how I
okay.
explained it, and they got it. But here's the interesting thing, though, Jared. There were Chinese subtitles for everything, including the made-up words. So I really wonder what they did. I wish my Chinese character knowledge was good enough.
You didn't think to ask them in the moment.
I should have. Yeah, I should have.
They probably... I wonder if it was just like... I mean, maybe that's one of the benefits of using Chinese characters versus maybe being in a language that uses, like an
alphabet.
Alphabet that we're used to, is that it can be phonetic like that, can it? So it maybe like is it possible that it could literally just be phonetically what he's saying?
It could be. And they were laughing when like the made up words were coming on the screen. So I really should have asked. I dropped the ball on that one because I was wondering that the whole time I was watching. I was
what are you guys laughing at? Because these aren't words.
Right. But I think that's kind of what makes it funny in English too, the fact that they're not words.
Wait, the original one is only 25 minutes long.
Yeah, it's just an animated cartoon.
And that does not involve Jim Carrey. He's no way involved with this production of The Grinch.
This was made in 1966, Jared. Definitely not.
Listen, Jim Carrey's an impressive actor. You never know.
That is true. Well, I told them, I said, if you like this movie...
He was 2 years old.
You have to watch the one with Jim Carrey. And I showed them. And that one is actually on Youku, which is another Chinese...
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Like Chinese YouTube, basically. And you can watch that one. So I'm hoping to watch that one this weekend because that is such a great movie.
Do you have any other go-to Christmas movies?
Let's see here. I really go ahead.
I'm not a huge Christmas movie person, but I do enjoy a Christmas story. But the thing is, kind of like Thanksgiving, it's not that I dislike the movie, but here in the United States on TBS, which is a popular cable TV channel here in the US, every year they play A Christmas Story for 24 hours.
Over and over again, yeah.
Literally 24 hours straight. From like Christmas to Christmas Eve to Christmas or whatever. And so like I get so much of it, I'm never like wanting for it.
Right. That's true. That is true. My go-to Christmas movies would probably be The Grinch. What else?
I haven't seen Elf in a long time.
Oh, Elf is a good one.
I haven't seen that movie in probably since it came out, and maybe a couple years after that. But that is one that I would happily rewatch.
Yep, Elf is good. I like a lot of those old kind of claymation ones because I watched them as a kid.
Claymation kind of creeps me out.
Does it really? Okay.
A little bit. I mean, it doesn't creep. Like, it's not going to keep me up at night. It's like I don't need this. These weird. I don't know.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. Another one that I really like that is kind of a Christmas movie, but more of a Halloween movie, depending on who you ask, is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Tim Burton. I love that movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen that, but I have heard that controversy be floated around. My favorite Christmas movie is Die Hard.
Oh, there you go. Some people say it's not a Christmas movie. Those people don't know anything about movies. That's all I have to say about that.
I mean, it came out like it takes place during Christmas. They're at a Christmas party when that's the scene of the movie.
Right.
I consider that a Christmas movie. But what do I know?
Right. That's true.
Any other questions that they asked that you found?
Oh yeah, I got some good ones. I got some good ones for you. Well, one of them, this one wasn't really a super great question, but the students' reaction was funny. They said, "What's the difference between the climate in Jinan and your hometown?" So I just pulled up on Bing. I just pulled up the weather forecast for Dexter,
Look, you can see
Michigan.
down the street. It's clear outside.
Well, I told them the air quality is better, and they all laughed because I'm sure they all kind of figured it was. But I showed them a forecast of the week, and they were like, "Oh, like they couldn't believe how cold it was and all the snow."
I went out today, and it was in the 20s, and it was rough.
I think yesterday it was one of the coldest days I've had here in Jinan, and I think it was about 35.
Oh, that's properly cold though.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you have all sorts of fancy jackets, though.
I do. Well, I have one thick winter jacket. Yeah.
It's only one.
This one was kind of funny. Would you rather be with Emma Stone or Anne Hathaway? Who would you pick, Jared? Emma Stone or Anne Hathaway?
Those are my two options.
Yep. That's a question. Gotta pick one.
Anne Hathaway.
Interesting. I went with Emma Stone.
Yeah, of
course. A lot of my students seem to be disappointed.
Yeah.
What does that mean, Jared? What's that supposed
to mean? No, I'd choose Anne Hathaway. No offense. Emma Stone, it's not like I'd be disappointed if I found out either of them were interested in me. I'm just saying.
I mean, they're both beautiful, that's for sure. And then they asked me, how about Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio? And I was like, well, I mean, I don't bat for that team. But if I did bat for that team, probably Brad Pitt.
I like Leonardo DiCaprio a lot, but I got to go with Brad Pitt too. I like him a lot too, but I mean, come on, he's older and he's still looks better than Leo.
This was another funny one, Jared. This was a funny one. Do you have a Twitter account? May I follow your tweets? And I mean, I do have a Twitter account. I never use it. I think
you probably haven't tweeted since 2015, but
probably not. No. I had to get it actually when we were at Albion because I took a communication class with Andy Boyan, and he wanted everyone to use Twitter for class. So,
what did you have to use it for?
I think we had to post stuff or retweet stuff. I don't even remember.
Pull it up and find some super offensive shit.
That's right.
First time on Twitter. Looking forward to see what this has to offer. Time to get out of the Stone Age.
There we
go.
That
was you. That was your first tweet.
That
Music
was me.
makes my world go round. About that time to pick up my guitar and practice. Almost there. Friday isn't too far. All right, I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Keep reading them.
Oh, you want me to keep reading?
Keep reading. I'm kind of curious.
Monday already. Why does the weekend go by faster than Mondays alone? Meeting. Excuse me. I mean, that is very true.
Kind of true.
Meeting with a possible landlord today to get my own place for the summer. # super stoked. # super stoked. I like that.
Jesus.
Come and join join me perform some solo classical guitar pieces. My first ever recital. Details here. And it's a link to Facebook. # music for life. Final exams done. Music composition for 10 weeks. This summer is so close. I can almost hear my new compositions. One more day in Albion for the school year. Hashtag it's summertime.
There we go.
It's been
That's
Are
right.
you done? You ready? You
No,
done?
keep going. Keep going. Keep
You
going.
want me to?
Yeah. I'm
It's
curious.
been a while, but finally moved into my own place, and I've been living the music life. Hashtag no complaints. Someone like that. Ich bin sehr glücklich darüber, dass
Oh, that was
dass
when I was
ich
at MSU. Okay.
Superklassen
Kameraden.
Kameraden und Professoren haben. Yeah, that was in 2017. So that's 5 years later. So it's been a while, but moved into my own place and have been living the music music life. Hashtag no complaints was the 1st of June, 2012.
Okay.
The German one, ich bin sehr glücklich. That was
2017.
that was February 3rd, 2017. Then after that was if you like learning languages or terrible Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions. And it was 2019, and it was our podcast.
Oh, there we go. So there we go. One tweet for our podcast, Jared.
So it's like, don't follow me. It was the answer to that question.
Yep. Basically, that's what I told them. I thought about telling them about the Untranslatable podcast, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. Just because I don't know if we say anything that's not pro China, and one of the students were to see it, like there could be potential issues.
Yeah, maybe wait until you're back in the United States, and then tell them like the day before your plane takes off.
Exactly.
Although the Chinese government's listening to our every word right now, and they're like, you fools.
Right. But yeah, so I got a couple other questions, though, that were kind of cool. This one, though, I really liked. I thought this one was just they were like thinking a lot about the vocabulary in the Grinch. So one of the students said, is the village name Whoville in the Grinch related to French ville? The suffix ville in French means city. Maybe there's a specific connection between them. And I was like, oh, I like this. Drawing connections. This is good. This was also submitted by a freshman student. And I told them, I said, well, actually, ville is used in a lot of places in the United States, like Nashville, Knoxville, Jacksonville.
Louisville or Louisville.
Right.
Yeah, where it's like, it's interesting where your head's at and like you're thinking, but like, yeah, as you were asking that question in my head, I was like, you're kind of overthinking it.
Right.
I think it was just, that's just the sign that you're talking about a city of some sort.
Right. But it comes from French. And I think a lot of Americans may not know that. So I think that was kind of
and that's an interesting question, too, because it makes a very good point. Especially if you don't understand, like, just, some standard things about U.S. or like naming of cities in the U.S., which why would you? Right. I get that question. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Well, Jared, although I have more and I would love to talk about them, I think it's time that we...
Yeah. It's funny that you do that to me. Oh, my head. See, because it feels like you would realize that I still don't have my drops ready to go. Yet you just sat there and expected me to
spread a little love.
To drop it like I had it ready to go. That's professional podcasting right there. It's been 20 minutes. You haven't heard one drop, but I happen to just have them ready to go for you.
It's because I know you can just drop it like it's hot, in the words of Snoop Dogg, Jared. I know you have that capability. So, let's go into some shout-outs. So my first shout out.
Just proven that I don't have that capability, but
I wasn't going to say it, Jared. I was just trying to encourage you a little bit.
You don't have to do that. You're way too nice. I feel like we need to be more argumentative, to really spice it up here. You're too nice and accepting of all my flaws.
Maybe you're right. You're right. Maybe we do. Maybe that's the teacher in me. Maybe I'm just too nice. Who knows? Anyways, so my first shout out goes out to Joe Burrow, who is the Heisman Trophy winner this year, I think he's a quarterback at LSU, but he's an Athens County native, and Athens is a place in Ohio. And his acceptance speech, he kind of made it known that in Athens, Ohio, there's a lot of people who are going hungry, and there's a lot of problems with poverty there. And after he made his speech, there has been about $400,000 donated of the $450,000 goal, which has been updated. So Joe Burrow is a quarterback from Louisiana State University, received the Heisman Trophy on Saturday, December 14th. He graduated from Athens High School in 2015. Coming from Southeast Ohio, this is what he's saying, it's a very impoverished area, and the poverty rate is almost 2 times the national average, Burrow said in his acceptance speech. There's so many people there that don't have a lot, and I'm up here for all those kids in Athens and Athens County that go home to not a lot of food on the table, hungry after school. You guys can be up here too. Over 5,700 people were able to be served with the donations to the Athens County Food Pantry in 2018, according to the Food Pantry's website. Of those people, over 1,800 were children. There were also 2,100 individual households served by the food pantry. He's an inspiring young man that others could certainly take a lesson from. Lisa Hamler-Fugit, an executive director of the Ohio Association of Food Banks, said in an email, "On behalf of the 2 million hungry Ohioans, thank you, Joey." So I think this is great. I always love when you see athletes using their platform for positivity.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you say that because I was going to say, I always like to see young people having a voice, you know, and like using their, and like, in a weird way, I'm nervous to make this comparison because who knows what will come out about this guy in like 5 years on his Twitter. But in a weird way, it's like Greta Thunberg-esque, and not even that they have similar goals in life, but it's just like, I like to see young people using their voice for good, you know, and actually making a legitimate impact, you know. And so I do like that stuff. And shout out to him.
Most definitely. A
lot of my family are LSU fans, so
there we go.
You know.
That would make sense. My next shout out goes out to a father-daughter duo, Paul and Sammy Parkinson, from Cache Valley, who recently published a book. Speaking of voices of children, Jared, and voices of doing good, voices of young people, they have just recently published a book featuring stories of service performed by children from around the United States and even a few outside of the country. For example, from the story of a young boy in Georgia who had his mom stop the car so he could help an elderly woman cross the street, to the 3 sisters in Australia who donated their hair to help cancer patients. The new book, Unselfish Kids, shows service that takes a variety of shapes. It's these thousands and hundreds of thousands of small acts each day that add up to the large thing. So we should never not do something because we feel it's too small, because in reality, it's the small things that have the big results, Paul Parkinson said. Paul and his daughter Sammy collaborated on the book after Sammy took some time off from college to participate in global humanitarian work. Sammy wanted a way to document the inspiring force children can be, so Paul suggested that they work together to create this book. So I think it's really amazing. Check it out. It is on Amazon, and it is called Unselfish Kids, which I think is great. And I think this reinforces for a lot of children that the little things they do matter, and hopefully it will inspire many to do more good.
That's lovely, Chad. Wow. Unselfish Kids? Sorry, I'm trying to find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just came out recently. I think it came out a couple days ago. Unselfish Kids. My last shout out for today,
Looks
Jared, goes out to New Zealand because I love this headline here, Jared. Food in the nude. New Zealand ditching plastic packaging of fruit and vegetables in supermarkets. So there you go. You had to read the whole headline, Jared. So you know it's not awful. So Food in the Nude is a New Zealand campaign to end plastic packaging for fresh produce in supermarkets. Foodstuffs have signed the New Zealand Plastic Packaging Declaration, which is committed to making all store and private label packaging 100% reusable, recyclable, or compostable by 2025. So I think that's great.
Oh, so it's not that they're not going to have packages. It's just that the packages will be eco-friendly packaging.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
But I think that's great.
Yeah. No, of course. Although I'll tell you this, whenever I get a styrofoam cup, I get mad, but I'm also like, this cup of hot cocoa has been hot for like 6 hours.
That's fair. We need to find a more eco-friendly alternative styrofoam out there, and then Jared will still be happy.
Hey, hit us up. I mean, not that I use styrofoam ever, really. Mostly I use a mug at work that I reuse every day, and I wash it.
There we go.
And that's very
Look at-
sustainable.
Look at you, Jared. You know what else is very sustainable, Jared?
Untranslatables. They
better
sustain
believe it, baby.
culture, the world, friendships.
That's right.
Yes. I'll start. Sure. Why not? My first one is Catalan, and it's más cara que espalda.
Something, blah, 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 as something.
More face than back.
More face than back.
Más cara.
Is this like... Go ahead. You can say it again.
Okay. Más cara que espalda. I didn't have to say it again. I already said it.
I like hearing you say it. Okay, so more face than back. Is this like more bark than bite?
No. But I
okay.
like where your head's at.
Okay.
But it is
okay.
negative. It's not a
negative.
good thing. You don't want to have more face than back.
Is it like you're more... I don't know. You're more superficial than you are
No.
real? No. Okay. Give me
I'd say-
an example.
I'd say I'd say just like it's like if I were telling you about someone, I would be like, wow, the Jimmy really is he's a really a-hole. He's ugly, he's dumb, he's not cool, and you're like, wow, you're really showing him more face than back.
Oh, so when you're like roasting somebody, or you're
I knew you weren't gonna get it. It's to behave or speak rudely, show no respect.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really
Okay.
roasting. It's just like to have
Be
no respect
disrespectful.
for someone.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, I'm going to start off with another Colombian one because I was reading through these Colombian ones and they're great. I do have some Chinese
So it's
ones today as
Spanish.
well. It is Spanish, Colombian Spanish, correct?
Okay.
And it is estamos parchando, which means to make a patch.
To make a patch. Mm-hmm. Is it not like to patch up a relationship, like to mend a relationship?
Not quite, but it is related to friendship, Jared. I would say, for
It's
example,
like to make a new friend? Oh.
No, I would say when I was back in Michigan, we made a lot of patches.
To make memories?
You're going a little too deep. When we record podcasts,
hang out.
you could say, there we go. Good job, buddy. To hang out.
To make okay. To make a patch. I don't understand that, but I guess you don't have to. Right. My next one, have you heard of the language Basque?
I have. Mm-hmm.
Do you know where it's spoken?
I think it's spoken in, it's the easy default answer is it's spoken in the Basque region, but I think the Basque region is in northern Spain?
Wow. Very good. Very
right?
good.
Ooh, all right.
And southern France. It's spoken in both of those, but northern Spain and southern France. And my phrase is Esquereco begiatu. I have no idea how to say any of that. Like, I don't even know where to begin. I'm sorry, but I don't know where to begin on most of these, but this one I really didn't even know where to begin. To look with the left eye. And I'll give you one clue.
Okay.
Know how people treat us left people.
That's kind of what I was thinking. To look with the left eye is kind of like, is it kind of like to like give somebody the side eye or like to look at someone disapprovingly?
No, this deals with someone that you have prior experience with personally, or professionally. To be fair,
is this like
but you're looking, but someone you've had prior experience with personally or professionally that now that you have now you know how they are as a person. You look at them with the left eye.
So you know who they are as a person. So it's like you're kind of looking at them like, is it to look at someone in disbelief?
I understand why this would be tough. But once you get it, you're going to be disappointed. But I understand how many ways this could go with not liking someone.
Right. So what is it?
Where it's like, hold on, let me give you one more example.
Okay.
I did business with this guy. I was talking to one of our mutual friends about when we did formal, and he was talking. We did our fraternity formal, and he was in charge of all the finances and organized everything. And he was talking about how some of our quote unquote friends might have taken longer than others to pay, but he said, they did pay eventually, but it took a really long time. And we graduated from college, I don't know, 5 years ago at this point, and I told him, I was like, oh, but you still don't look at them with the left eye or anything, so it's no big deal
Yeah, I got nothing.
to have a grudge against someone.
Oh, yep. Okay, that makes sense. That does make you're
Oh,
right.
I know
am
it does.
disappointed.
I was pretty proud of that.
Right.
Oh, and one other thing I just wanted to say, I'm tired of this left slander. We're
I
good
know,
people.
right? We are.
I have great handwriting. I mean well. I
Speak
don't
for yourself, Jared. My handwriting is
All right,
atrocious.
shh. All right, well, just
Atrocious.
keep that to yourself. They don't.
Hey, you know what, Jared? Maybe I wanted to become a doctor and it just
But
med school
that's
didn't
true.
pan out.
Very prestigious. You're very
That's
creative
right.
too.
That's right. Well, that's the funny thing. In China, when people see that I'm left-handed, I've heard from like 4 or 5 people. They say, "Oh, you're left-handed, so you must be more intelligent and more creative." And I'm like,
And
"What
you're
are
like,
you
yeah.
talking?" Like,
If
that's what I should say.
If I'm confident enough, every now and again I'll say like, yeah, that's true.
Right. If you're feeling good that day, yep, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, and usually
All right,
it's
Jared.
like,
My
no,
last one
not at
for
all.
you
I'm an
today
idiot.
is Chinese, and it is "hukobaya," which means pulling a tooth from a tiger's mouth.
Where it's like trying hard to get something out of someone, or it's like forcing something out of someone, or it's like pulling or it's like working hard, or I feel like I'm playing some sort of game show all of a sudden.
You are. It seems like you are. No. So, well, just think about it, Jared. How would you describe
It's like
someone
stressed
that pulls,
out.
How would you describe someone who pulls a tooth from a tiger's mouth?
Scared.
Would you be scared if you pulled a tooth out of a tiger's mouth?
Yeah, because my hand would be inside of a tiger's mouth. I love how you're asking it like that's a crazy thing to be
Okay,
scared.
well, think about somebody who's not scared. How would you describe that person? Other than stupid. Obviously, they are stupid, but how would you describe a person?
Oh, it's like someone that's very in control, very cool, calm, and collected.
Or courageous.
Brave yes, yeah,
or
I just call that
courageous.
person stupid.
Yeah, right. That's why I said stupid, because I knew you would probably go that direction with it. But yeah, it means someone.
Oh,
who
you
is
wouldn't
willing
call that
to-
person stupid?
Oh no, I totally would too.
Oh, okay. Just all right. I'm like,
but
am
yeah.
I the crazy one here?
No. But yeah, it simply means to brave the greatest danger, which I think is why some professions out there are revered all around the world. Things like a doctor, the small amount of research I did, it's incomparable to the months and months of research that Jared does. But the small amount of research that I did showed that in almost every country I looked at, doctor was one of the most respected professions. And I think sometimes as a doctor, you have to really make some very important, literally life or death decisions. And you have to not only be intelligent, but sometimes you also have to be brave.
I was thinking about but even before I did all this quote unquote research, which I do, a lot of that research a lot of that research is more meditative. It's more sitting on things, thinking about things, pondering life, thinking about the
Letting them
2019 word of the year, existential. And what I was thinking about was, what does a job need to have? What are some aspects of a
good.
job that make it respected? Why do people respect someone for having a job? Number one is obvious.
Money.
No matter where you are, yes, that's
Yep.
probably going to be number one easiest is the money. But most cultures, thankfully. But as you mentioned, doctor covers all of these things, including money typically. So it kind of
Right.
covers all of these. Some of them don't hit most of them don't hit all of them. Money's big. Everyone, even though some cultures care more about money, people might claim that people here in the U.S. are more obsessed with money and being rich, which is probably true. But everyone has some strong feelings about money. Let's put it that way. Helping people is another one I have. that I thought about.
I would agree.
I'd say anything that you do that requires being of service to other people, I think is important. And what I put on top of that is not only helping people, but helping the greater good. For example, helping your country, So the greater good could be a community, but it could also be some sort of government-related situation, what's perceived as helping the greater good, or what might actually be. I don't need to be negative about that.
Right. True. I think it's interesting as well, in what ways helping people could be viewed as viewed higher or lower in different cultures and countries, right?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you that here in China, although teachers here in China don't make the most money, it is still a very respected and honorable position. I mean, did I tell you this story about when I talked to a cab driver when I was going to the train station a while ago? He asked me what I did, and I kind of understood what he meant. And so I said one of the few sentences I can actually put together in Chinese, which is "I'm a teacher." So I told him "我是老师." And he went, "Oh," and he did a salute. And he was like, "Oh," 老师." and so cab drivers here in Jinan speak with a Jinan dialect. So 老师is what you're supposed to say in China, that's the Mandarin, the Putonghua. That's the proper Chinese. And he was saying, "Oh, 老师," which is the Jinan dialect. When I told my students this story, and I said it in a Jinan dialect,
they clapped.
You should have seen them. They were cracking up. They were dying. It was really funny. I felt like I had my own little mini stand-up special in class. It was funny.
This teaching in China seems very good for your self-esteem.
It has been. It really has been.
People clap for you. There's a lot of laughing.
Although I did get a bit of a power trip in the Czech Republic because the students all stand to start class.
They don't do that there?
They don't. No,
interesting.
They don't. Yeah,
you kind of expect that kind of quote unquote, and I say quote unquote because it's all sort of perceived, but that sort of quote unquote respect in China, Right. By the way, anyway, I do have. Speaking of respect, I do have a few other things that I thought of that could help make a job be considered respected.
Great, let's hear 'em.
A high knowledge threshold.
Absolutely.
So any sort of job
Engineer.
that requires a lot of scientists. Once again, doctor covers kind of all of this in one.
Right. I would also say teacher, depending on the subject.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're teaching high level science or high level maths or high level anything really. Whether English, philosophy, whatever. So a high knowledge threshold. So maybe something that requires something higher than your bachelor's degree. It's usually considered higher education these days, whether it be master's or PhD or MD.
And I think the way it works, Jared, with the different rungs of higher ed. I mean, bachelor's you're considered you're obviously above an associate. But I think for a lot of places now, because so many people have a bachelor's degree, it's kind of viewed as kind of base level, right?
Yeah.
Then in theory, a master's, I've heard some people say you're supposed to be kind of an expert in the field, and then a PhD is where you're a specialized expert. You're obviously at the top of the top. PhD, or also EDD, Doctor of Education, would be another one.
But that's not. But also somewhere in there is getting certifications like a CPA, which is
Also true.
Certified public accountant, which is obviously you need not obviously, but typically you need at least a bachelor's to get something like that,
right?
And or like a JD, a Juris Doctor, which is a doctor of law. Okay, one more that I thought of that would be helpful to have a respected job.
Okay.
Can you guess what it is?
So we've talked about money. We've talked about intelligence or knowledge,
helping people and helping the country.
People. Maybe creativity.
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't have that, but that is a good one. People really respect any sort of visual artist, any sort of musician, any sort of comedian, I think. A lot of that stuff is respected because people are like, oh, I could never do that,
Right. Acting as well, I would say.
Yeah, acting, that's another great example. Yeah, any sort of artistic endeavor. I think it's that, similar to higher education, it's sort of that feeling of that sort of, I could never do that feeling.
Right.
And art's a little
Right.
different because it feels a lot of times, even though there's a lot of hard education involved in arts, it feels like that sort of I could never do that thing. That's not what I was thinking of though, but that is very good, and
Okay.
I think that is useful for the list. What I was going to say was continuing a family tradition. So it's like
yeah, that's
it's
good.
like
Okay.
my great grandpa was a blah blah blah. My dad did it, and now I'm continuing on. Whether it's like
Right.
owning a business, a family business, or even like I remember during the there were a lot of strikes here. Not a lot of strikes. There was a long strike here in Metro Detroit for General Motors, and a lot of people were talking about like it's sort of a family tradition for us to work at for this company. My blah 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 worked for GM and blah blah worked for GM, and there is a lot of that sort of family tradition, and I think there's a lot of family tradition involved in the military too. And, and there's a lot of wanting to continue on that line of being in things like the military. Doctors, I think, get it a lot too. And so I think continuing on, even if it's like a family respect specifically, I think a lot of
Right.
respect can be gained from continuing on with the family tradition, or even in a community where it's like, oh, look at Junior continuing on at the the steel mill or whatever. I don't know.
Right. Now I have a question for you though, Jared, because I really agree with this list. Most definitely, money, knowledge threshold, family traditions, higher. Yeah. But what I wonder though is some of these, like if we use this criteria, right, to grade respected professions, I wonder though why at least in the United States, I'm not sure in other countries, but why in the United States that trades are not better respected? Because a lot of trades,
Right.
like stuff where you work with your hands, a lot of the stuff I definitely couldn't do. I don't have the knowledge to do it. Sometimes you also have to be very creative to come up with solutions for stuff. And some people in trades can make a killing. They make really good money. I mean, it's hard work. They work hard for their money. But and who's to say that doctors and lawyers and other professions don't work hard for their money? I think they also do. But I wonder why a lot of trades in the States are not better respected.
It doesn't feel like manual labor is it doesn't feel like manual labor is not respected, I think is what it is. And I don't know why that is, especially since a lot of manual labor doesn't automatically mean, a lot of times doesn't mean lack of education. It just means specialized education, that doesn't require getting a doctorate, but you still have to do some sort of some level of special education. Like if you want to be an electrician,
Right.
that requires a lot of education to not electrocute yourself to death and actually know how to how to properly do that. Or and so I think at least here in the U.S., something about manual labor. I think maybe because our economy as a whole has moved past relying on manual labor as being in general. Obviously, there's still levels of it. I think that loses its favor. It's interesting. So we should start with the. I have a question first. I have a list of the most prestigious professions in the United States, a couple of different countries, but I have it split out by generation. But
Okay. Oh, fascinating.
did your parents, Chad, have any sort of professional expectations put on you? Did you feel any sort of pressures or any sort of like if I don't do at least like if I do this job that might seem cool, my parents would never respect me or feel like I'm actually
You're asking the wrong
productive.
guy, Jared, because I studied music in undergrad.
Right.
Much to my mother's dismay as well. I will tell you this, though. It wasn't ever a matter of... it really was never a matter of... like what profession you will do. It was always... I always felt the pressure that you have to go to college. Like that was...
Right.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I also don't understand is that my parents also, going back to the whole idea of trades, my parents never once even considered the idea of me, it was always you're going to college, not you're going to college, or if you are interested, you could go into trade school, right? I have a couple of friends from high school. Well, maybe more acquaintances now from high school that went into trades, and they make a hell of a lot more money than I am ever going to make as a teacher.
But
it seems like they're pretty happy with their lives.
But yes, I wonder though. You know, people say that all the time. But what's the threat? What's sort of like the threshold on how much you can make? You know, the potential. So maybe you start off strong. You know, you start making a good amount of like a living amount of money where you could afford to maybe put a down payment on a home, while we're just and while in that 4 years where you made that money to do something like that, we're just graduating from college and we seem way far behind. You know, we're impressed that they have a home and own a car and all that stuff. But then it's like, but how much further can you progress from that, you know? So what's sort of your earning? And obviously you can point out the exceptions, I would assume, would be my guess, where someone, you know, makes a business out of whatever this is that we're talking about and manages to employ a lot of people and actually turn it into a large business. But I don't think that's common, you know?
Right. That's true.
So that would be my counter. True. And that's also why I would think those jobs like that might struggle in our what I listed as the criteria to be a respected job.
Right,
is because
that's true.
That even though you might get that money early, I think that earning potential is not often as realized in the long term. So let's talk about some of the most respected professions in the United States. And keep in mind,
let's do it.
I have this split up by generation. Now, one thing I'll say right off the bat is that older generations in general are going to have more respect for professions, period. So they just respect, like in general, the numbers are going to be high, percentages are going to be higher. Now these percentages aren't crazy differences. Now granted, they don't give sample sizes, they don't give confidence intervals or anything, so I can't tell you how significant these differences are because they're percentages, but bear with me. Now number one, as we've said, obviously doctor. Now that's going to be the number one in a lot of places.
Right.
It's also the number one in Russia. It's also the number one in India, and it's also the number one in. Those are the ones I have. Number two, scientist.
Okay.
But that's the number three. But number three is firefighter, and I say but because for baby boomers, 51 to 69, scientist. And firefighter are flipped. Firefighter.
Oh, interesting.
Firefighter falls into the falls into the helping people. Falls into the helping the community. Falls into the potentially could fall into the continuing a family tradition.
Correct.
I have a uncle that used to be he's retired now, but he used to be a chief of a fire department for a long time. His daughter, my cousin, she has worked, maybe not at the same one, but she's worked at a fire department for years doing dispatch. But it does not hit the money part. They're not known to be high earners. Quite the opposite. Military officer, I think it falls into hitting similar categories as now military officer. I would say potentially, especially officer, has higher earning potential.
Yes,
but
definitely.
But it still does not really. It's not. You know, you got to be. It's about time. So you got to be in there forever. Engineer, that kind of hits all of them, but it doesn't really hit helping people. Doesn't really.
Would you? I don't know if I agree with that.
I guess it depends on the engineer.
Right, because I think there's a lot of different types of like a civil engineer. They're responsible for infrastructure, right? I feel like that helps a lot of people.
How helpful? I guess is what do you consider helpful? Because it's like if you look at a car engineer, now that's helpful because cars are being made. But I guess that job needs to exist. But are they helping by like? Are they helping the greater good by just continuing on and producing essentially what a large corporation tells you to produce, you know?
Oh, that's a good point. That is a good point.
Are you continuing, like, is engineering known for continuing on a family tradition kind of profession? Now, obviously that exists. I'm not saying that doesn't exist.
Traditionally, I'd say probably not.
Every profession has that. Every where it's like, oh, I want my kid to do the same thing I do because parents are weird. But you don't really hear often where it's like long line. We come from a long line of engineers.
Engineers, right?
Nurse,
I don't know, maybe wait a couple generations and that might be a thing, Jared. We'll see.
Nurse is very similar to the doctor in terms of why it's respected, but it lacks the money aspect.
Okay.
And people, and a lot of times people will talk about, at least here in the U.S., where nurses, I'm just saying what conversations I hear. I'm not saying, I'm not giving an opinion, deserve more respect than doctors. And it's the only reason that the doctors get the more respect is because they have that money aspect. And so it's just assumed that they're the person, they get the disproportionate amount of respect for keeping you alive, essentially.
Right.
Architect can fall into helping others in your community. Doesn't have to. Definitely can fall into high knowledge threshold. Definitely can fall into money, and potentially tradition. EMT, emergency medical technician, similar to nurse, I think, in the categories that it falls into. You're not going to get the money to one, but it definitely falls into helping your community and others, and requires a high knowledge threshold.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I don't know if EMT specifically has that sort of tradition with it.
I don't think so.
But I do agree that it's very respected. Veterinarian, police officer, for obvious reasons. Now at the lower end of the list, just out of public relations consultant is at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
Is teacher even on the list?
Teacher must be somewhere in the middle because it's not at the very bottom, and it's not in the top 10, and it's not at the bottom 10.
And why is it, Jared, that you think that teachers? Because in the Czech Republic, I feel like teachers are respected. I think they have become over the years less and less respected. In China, they're still very well respected. In other countries, I think teachers are still very. They have a lot of high regard in the community. Why do you think it is in the States that teachers aren't as well respected?
Well, I mean, it's a known fact that our education system is lacking nationally, like on an international scale. Right. And also, I think part of the problem, personally, and this is coming from someone that was, I guess, part of this problem, we have a extensive infrastructure of being able to buy better education, quote unquote. Right. So we have public schools which are available to anyone, regardless of your financial status. To a certain extent, it varies by what neighborhood you're from. But also, in general, so I guess that's a whole different part of it is funding and how funding is done based on the community you live in. But also, even outside of the funding aspect, we have a large industry of private schools, and so I think people don't respect the public school as much because we have a bigger industry of private schools than you might find in other countries with great education systems, and so we don't respect the public one as much because we have what we consider essentially a luxury education system, where it's like you're paying for better education. Right.
Which is funny because in a lot of other countries, private schools and private universities, it's the opposite. Right. People go there because they're not good enough to handle the public education system or the state-run education system. So then they have to pay out of pocket to go somewhere else, which I think is really funny how it's
outside
flipped
of that,
in other countries.
I think there's a lot of historical and sort of racial and segregation related and just like neighborhood and money related aspects that lead to that. Banker, politician, stockbroker, accountant, journalist, farmer. These are all at the bottom. All of those make sense to me except farmer. That one kind of bothers me. And farmer is not at the bottom in other countries. True. And there was some country I saw, I don't remember where it was, but it's not. Oh, in India, farmer is one of the top respected professions. I actually found India interesting because in the top professions, number one was doctor. Number two was military. I think in countries, I would imagine that there's probably going to be more respect for military in those countries. Say I'm just pulling one out of my ass, but for Israel, for example, or I don't know, Korea, for example, where you have like or even a lot of European countries where you have like the required military service.
Right.
I think when everyone has to do some level of military service, it'll be more respected because everyone at least has some level of understanding for the amount of effort that goes into that. Just like in Russia, for example, that is also one of the top respected professions.
I would also say, too, if this is a country that tends to really need a military. Like I feel like in Switzerland, I mean, military is compulsory, I think, for all men up to the age of 45. But, like, when was the last time
they
that
don't
Switzerland
feel that
actually
threat,
had a...
yeah.
Right. When did they actually have a conflict, And I feel like it's very respected in the U.S. because...
We're always in wars.
We've been at war or had a conflict since Jared and I have been alive. So, I'm older than Jared, so for 28 years, longer than we've been alive, actually. Which is pretty crazy to think about.
Sort of conflict. And we've been in one of our longest wars is going on right now.
What's that?
Is that war still
the war
technically...
on Christmas?
No, Day 7,000. Isn't the war in Iraq technically still happening? War in Iraq, excuse me.
Is it? I'm not sure.
Is it over? Is it technically over?
I don't know. That's a great question. I have no idea. That is a great question, Jared. But yeah, military is an interesting one.
I'm getting into
farmer is also interesting to me as well because I think a lot of people, they don't respect farmers. They consider farmers to be, stupid or whatever. But farming is hard work. I think there is a lot you have to know. I don't think a farmer is in any way stupid at all.
It's risky.
Just because
it's very risky too. You got to rely on the weather,
right?
And the market.
That's the thing. And the thing is that if we don't have good farmers, what are we going to do for food? Are you going to go out and hunt your meat? We still need farmers, I guess, for livestock too.
Not me,
are you going to go out and hunt
no.
your meat? Are you going to grow your own garden in your backyard? So I think farmers are very, very important. But yeah.
In India, teachers is high up there too, number 6 for what that's worth. But it just generally means that it's one of the more highly respected professions.
Right.
IAS and IFS. IAS is Indian Administrative Service officers.
Okay.
Civil servants that work in administrative and leadership roles at state and central levels in the government. And IFS is Indian Foreign Services. I think foreign services people here in the U.S. get respected, even though a lot of people probably don't even really understand what they do. I honestly don't fully understand what they do.
Right.
In administrative services get no respect here in the U.S. Honestly, they get like when I think of if I were to think of administrative services, I would think of going to the DMV. Going to you got to go to your local courthouse for something, or you know there's no respect for those people.
Right, that's true.
They're just considered pencil pushers, or like tax related services. It's like no one respects anyone at the IRS.
Right. True. That's a good point. I think that's just kind of in our American nature, though, to be very. I don't know. I feel like the way
sort
our
of
country
like fight
was founded,
against the power.
Yeah, the way our country was founded, let alone just goes to show you that we're just kind of like, F the man. Like, I feel like people in administration are part of that system. So yeah.
See, I found India weird because here's some other ones that social workers is on the list for some of the top respected. Social workers are notoriously under-respected professions here in the United States.
And overworked in the States,
and it's interesting, too, because they fulfill every level of the criteria except for money. They're notoriously also underpaid here in the U.S., but obviously they're helping people. That's their job. They're helping the community or your country or wherever or your area. It requires a high knowledge threshold because you need a master's in social work.
Yep.
And it could continue family tradition too, potentially. That's because I think selfless jobs require some sort of pride, inherent pride that could come from continuing a family tradition too. Another one that surprised me, just one more in India that surprised me. Lawyers. Lawyers fulfill money. Potentially, they could be helping other people. Potentially, they could be doing the complete opposite.
Yeah. Right.
Potentially, they could be helping a community. Potentially, once again, complete opposite. Obviously, it requires a high knowledge threshold, and that's also a profession I think can come with a lot of tradition too. I think that could definitely be one that could be like a family, a family of lawyers. I could definitely see that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like the Bernstein family in Michigan.
Yeah.
There are like 5 or 6 or 7 of them. They're all lawyers.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. That is true. Well, Jared, you know what is a profession that I think you get a lot of respect if you're very famous, but not so much respect if you aren't very famous, is musicians, which I think should lead us to our song of the pod.
That's an interesting category all in itself, is positions like we don't have to do an episode on this, but like professions.
We could though, that might be fun.
With like the widest gap, like a doctor, you're respected even if you're in like in med school. You're very respected. It was like, oh, good, we're rooting for you. Good. But it's like if you're like in the low levels, just like performing in bars. As a musician, it's like you need to get a job.
Right, exactly. You're right.
I like the
song for this week, Jared.
This song is by an artist called Lineker, who we've had on the pod before, and Lineker and the band is and it's like Eos Caramelos, and that's the band, the Caramelos. And it's called Boca, which is mouth, right? And she's Portuguese, I believe. Or, excuse me, Brazilian, speaking Portuguese.
Watch yourself.
I meant to say she's Brazilian, speaking Portuguese. And, I mean, how many times do I have to say it? Portuguese, much like Spanish, beautiful language to be sung in. And
oh, absolutely.
The like, is it the tone of her voice? I don't know what it is. The register, the octave that she performs in, the range. I love that range. It's a big range,
nice.
But it's very calming range, and a very soothing tone, and a great singer, and the band is great too. You get the horns, a little bit of the horns, not like a loud, like it's a very calm song, but I like it a lot, and we've obviously featured her before, so clearly we're fans.
Absolutely, yeah. I just love the vibes of this song. It just has such a, like you said, kind of a calming effect. It's really great. The band behind her is tight and fantastic. It's a really, really great song. Most definitely.
Yes. Yeah. That's, oh my God. 24 years old.
Talented. Very, very talented.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
anyway.
Her voice in a way makes her sound more mature.
Yes. Yeah.
If I dare say that. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic though. So check that out on our Song of the Pod playlist on our YouTube channel, Untranslatable Podcast. You will definitely enjoy. So we are lovers of language and culture here, and we're both attempting to learn languages ourselves. I am slowly at a snail's pace.
I'm not trying
Chinese.
that hard, just to be clear.
I
don't want to give any false...
Right. Yeah, I need to try harder as well. So my word for today is Chinese. My Chinese word of the pod is zhiye. And zhiye means profession.
Okay. My Spanish word of the pod is ilustre.
Which means?
Or you could say prestigioso o prestigiosa.
Oh, prestigious. Okay, prestigious. Illustrious, prestigious. Yeah?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess if you want to assume it's a cognate. I was gonna say a friend because I almost said false friend. If you want to assume it's a friend, yeah, I guess sure.
Okay, nice. Well, it's been interesting, Jared, to look at the different respected professions around the world. India was definitely a surprise, for sure. That was really fascinating.
Make you reconsider your line of work? I mean, you're in a highly respected profession if you never come back home.
That is true. That is very true.
Although
I think something, yeah.
I will say, college professor does earn you more respect,
more prestige
than like elementary, middle school, or high school. But I think it's because there is that extra level of education required, and also, slightly higher pay, but not even that much. Like it's not like professors are just becoming rich off of becoming, being professors alone. But
right. You have to do something administrative as well as teach if you want to really
or like publish stuff,
make the money in education. Right. And even in publishing, I don't think there's that much money in it unless you're like really
you gotta
books are selling
be
like
like
hotcakes.
Jordan Peterson and get on Joe Rogan or something.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's really interesting to see what I like the fact that you came up with that list of respectable professions. I would definitely agree that money is always a big thing. The knowledge threshold is a big one. Family tradition. I think those are all really, really interesting things to keep in mind. Helping the community as well. So yeah, I think it was really great. And it's also interesting too that a lot of professions are kind of respected in many different cultures. Like doctor is a big one. It seems like lawyer is a big one. Scientist.
But I think it's because regardless of what a culture seems to value in a community or in a person, a doctor will hit sort of all of them,
I would agree. Absolutely.
It's sort of the gold standard of profession around the world. And what's better than literally saving a person's life, having a person's life in your hands.
Exactly. That's very true. Very, very true. So let us know.
I don't want that kind of responsibility though.
Right.
That's way too much.
Me either. Although there is actually a lot of responsibility in education. I think a lot of people just don't realize it, especially in younger education.
That's probably another problem with education here in the United States is that people don't understand, don't recognize how important it is.
Absolutely. Well, let us know what professions you think are respectable at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us, untranslatable1. Send us some meme news if you're so inclined. We always appreciate some good meme news, high quality stuff. Check out our Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast, if you want to see what we've been up to, our travel shenanigans and so forth. And lastly, please, 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, Dekuyame, which is gracias, and shisha.